For a while now, we have been exploring the question and trying to look at events from his perspective. This is the third video in this series. Of course, to answer this question, we are also addressing the positions of the universe, God, and all other created systems and beings. You can access the first two videos through the playlist. What if Satan is right? But do you know what we need to do first? When looking at an event or a situation, we must listen to both sides. One of the most important ways to determine the accuracy of a piece of news is to examine it, not just from one perspective, but also from the opposing viewpoint. Similarly, in court, if you judge based only on the arguments presented by one side, you are not delivering justice. For this reason, up until today, we have listened to the events between God, Satan, and the devil, mostly from a single perspective, the narrative presented in the divine scriptures. This means Satan was never given a chance to speak, and we never got to understand his emotions, thoughts, or the arguments he used to defend himself. However, there is a very significant philosophy put forward by Satan. This is something both commentators of religious texts and believers who tend to judge Satan with bias often overlook. Because Satan is assumed to be inherently wrong, his philosophy has never been fully understood. Even though this philosophy has not been completely grasped, Satan has addressed it not by openly explaining it to humanity, but rather by implementing it in a rather intriguing way. Now, I will try to explain what this is all about. We will analyze the issue from Satan's perspective, listening to the events of that day as he would narrate them. What exactly happened on the day when God commanded the angels to prostrate before Adam? Instead of solely relying on how it is described in the Quran, what if we were to analyze this event from Satan's side? Because our duty is to question everything and to develop empathy. Let's see what actually happened that day. Satan's objection in that moment sparked 7 fundamental philosophical questions. These questions are at the root of all ideologies, including atheism and all other isms. The emergence of all ideological systems is hidden within Satan's objection from that day. However, both philosophers and thinkers, as well as scientists, have overlooked the core philosophical methodology that Satan introduced. That is why, today, I will attempt to explain this issue to you. So, where does this topic originate, and where does it lead? One of the philosophies that Satan put forward is to impose a belief system on people through a traditional perspective. What I mean is this. When we assume that all the narrations in the Quran or other divine books come from a single being, that is, when we think of the terms God, He, we, and Allah as referring to one entity, we unknowingly end up serving the system Satan has constructed, because Satan has already built the system upon this very foundation. In a moment, we will examine how these 7 philosophical questions are intertwined with this issue. Today, we will take a look at Satan's 7 questions. Later, in future videos, we will analyze these answers further. Now, when we look at Surah Al-A'raf, verse 12, God says, He said, "What prevented you from prostrating when I commanded you?" And Satan responds, "This is already a debate, a conversation, a discussion." But again, because we listen to these events with the preconception that Satan is wrong, we overlook these 7 crucial philosophical questions. That's what I will address today. Satan says, I am better than him. Look, Satan's first response is this: I am better than him. Why? Because he claims that he was created from fire, while Adam was created from clay. And in other verses, we see that Satan insists on this argument and begins to present justifications for his stance. The statement Satan makes, I am better than him. I was created from fire, while he was created from clay, carries within it 7 fundamental philosophical questions. Satan is well aware of this. When he used these words toward God, he knew that God was actually posing these 7 questions to him. However, as I keep saying, when we do not view events from the perspective of cosmic hierarchy, when we instead look at them through the lens of traditional belief in God, we come to understand that Satan deliberately built his argument upon this system. He did not construct his questioning upon the cosmic hierarchy system. Because he knows this, people with their traditional understanding will reduce the system of God, the system of the Lord, and the system of he and we to a single entity. Satan is fully aware of this. So, when Satan engaged in this questioning, when he made the argument in Surah Al-Araf, I am better than him, what questions was he actually asking? In reality, when we think about it, these same questions come to our minds as humans. However, the reason these questions arise in our minds is precisely because of the systemic process that Satan established, a process that will continue until the end of time. Now, Satan says, since. His first line of questioning follows 3 variations of why. He says, since God is all-knowing, since he knows everything that will happen, since he has infinite knowledge and is aware of every action a creation will take until its final moment. Then he asks, if God knew everything I would do even before creating me, why did he create me? That is the question Satan poses. In other words, when he says, I am better than him, Satan actually knows that the Lord before him is not inferior to him in knowledge. Again, I repeat, in the traditional methodology, the Lord, God, is assumed to be superior to us. That is the classical understanding. But when we analyze this from the perspective of cosmic hierarchy, we separate these concepts. If we do not consider the cosmic hierarchy, these 7 philosophical questions will remain unanswered. Neither the Muslim world, nor theologians, nor scholars of religious studies, nor believers in theology have been able to answer these questions, and they still cannot. And Satan asks, since God is an all-knowing being, aware of everything, and since he knows all the actions a being will take until the end of time, why did he create me? This is one of Satan's most fundamental inquiries. At the same time, he makes all of humanity ask this question. If God already knows everything we will do, why did he create us? Isn't this a question we ask ourselves? From here, we will try to understand how Satan's argument, I am better than him, forms the basis of 7 philosophical concepts. The second fundamental question. Now he says, since God is almighty, sovereign over everything, and capable of all things, then he asks, Since my obedience or disobedience does not benefit or harm him in any way, what is the purpose of holding me accountable? Isn't this also a question we ask ourselves? Again, I emphasize, Satan presents these ideas at a philosophical level, which is why humans continue to ponder them today. The very foundations of atheism stem from this question. Do not forget that. And Satan asks, if my obedience or defiance brings neither benefit nor harm to him, why does he hold me responsible? Then he takes the questioning further. If he wanted to give me benefit or harm, since we are talking about an infinite creator, right? I am speaking from the perspective of classical methodology. Then why does he first impose an obligation on me before doing so? If he knows everything, why did he create me? What does it serve him to give me benefit or harm? And even if he were to give me benefit or harm, why does he do it after imposing a responsibility on me? This is Satan's second major inquiry. The third question. While I was already obeying God, already fulfilling all his commands, already affirming his essence and attributes, again, I emphasize, he is questioning from a philosophy that does not acknowledge cosmic hierarchy. While I was showing reverence to his essence, why did he command me to show reverence to Adam, a second being? By commanding me to prostrate before another entity, was he equating this second being with himself? Or in other words, why did he command me to bow before another being, if he already knew that this command would not increase my knowledge or devotion? Why did he issue such a specific command? Satan's questioning, his insistence, this is not a simple exchange where he said one thing, God said another, and he was expelled. Satan had a philosophy behind the words he used, and God also knew the philosophical implications of Satan's questions and understood how to counter them. So, these are just the first three of Satan's 7 philosophical questions arising from I am better than him. The first 3 questions are based on why. They are questions that must be answered in the context of the future. These are the questions Satan posed to God, especially if we equate God, the infinite creator, and absolute destiny into the same concept. If we assume the words we, Lord, he, and God all refer to the same entity, then these are questions that shake the very foundations of traditional belief systems. And as I mentioned, I do not see any satisfying answers to these questions within conventional belief systems, nor do I believe that people have found such answers. When we look at other videos and explanations on this topic, and even when we conduct Google searches, we see that this confusion persists. Since God knows everything that will happen, why did he create us? What was the need? Isn't that a question we ask? But for now, we will only examine these questions. We will see what Satan's arguments are. Later, we will attempt to analyze whether they are valid and whether Satan was right or wrong. As I said, what we are trying to do here is to re-examine the events of that day, when the angels gathered, when the command to prostrate to Adam was given, and when Satan objected, not from the perspective we have always heard, but from Satan's point of view, through his philosophy and his questioning. Now, when we come to the fourth part, the fourth philosophical question is, if I have committed no wrongdoing other than refusing to prostrate to Adam, is this a sufficient reason for me to be expelled from the divine presence. In other words, he is saying, I did not disrespect your essence, nor did I show disrespect to your commands. I have never objected to any of the tasks you have assigned to me until now, but is my mere refusal to prostrate to Adam such a great offense that it led to my expulsion from your presence? Satan presents his arguments. That is, he is essentially asking, why are you dismissing me so easily? And at the same time, while dismissing him, God could have provided all the necessary arguments to justify this decision. In fact, Satan argues that he is already in a position to prove that Adam will not be a worthy caliph, that he can demonstrate this. And he says, why am I facing such a harsh attitude, such a strict decision, such a severe consequence? Look, Satan's first three questions were based on why. Now I have read the fourth question. That is my refusal to prostrate to Adam such a terrible thing? Why did you expel me? Now I will come to the fifth question. These fourth and fifth questions are more metaphysical inquiries, questions with a metaphysical foundation, which I will elaborate on in future parts. But in the first three, we saw the whys. Why did you do this to me? Why did you do it despite knowing? Why did you make this decision? But now we arrive at a new metaphysical reasoning. How bad could my refusal to prostrate to Adam really be? As I said, Satan, as a being who understands the cosmic systems very well, has the ability to present profound philosophies with very few words. The God who is listening to him also knows how significant a philosophy Satan can present with just a few words. Satan has formulated and structured these 7 questions in such a way that they will instill doubts in all of humanity throughout the test on earth. And in this matter of instilling doubts, he will begin by deceiving Adam. Now let's move on to the fifth question. Look at the magnitude and depth of the question he asks. If God had not allowed me to enter paradise, if he had prevented me, if he had not given me the opportunity, Adam would have been at peace from me and would have remained in paradise eternally. Why did he make me the reason for Adam's expulsion from paradise? Why did he allow it? He could have chosen not to allow it. If we are speaking of a God who knows everything, who has control over all things, who is aware of every matter and follows every step, then why, after expelling me from his presence, did he still allow me to enter paradise and deceive Adam? This is an extraordinary question, an exceptional inquiry with a metaphysical foundation. And again, as I have mentioned before, by people, I am referring to theologians, scholars, who discuss these matters in theological and philosophical contexts. They have yet to provide satisfactory answers to these questions. Now, we will see the 6th and 7th questions of Satan. These 2 questions are based on the possibility of entirely new realms of existence, meaning, if there were a possibility of creating new universes, why was this particular system chosen? Look carefully. These questions differ in their philosophical depth, in their categories, and in their methods of inquiry. That is to say, as I have mentioned before, Satan is not an ordinary being. Now let's examine the 6th question. He says, what does God say in the verse regarding the children of Adam? They watch over you from places where you do not see them and whisper to you. Then Satan asks, what is the wisdom behind granting me the power to see them from where they cannot see me. They do not see me, but I see them from a place where they cannot see me. What is the wisdom behind this? Why did he establish such a system? In other words, what he is trying to argue is that an entirely different parallel universe reality could have been created. His questioning here is fundamentally about why, among millions of possible cosmic systems, this specific system was chosen. At this point, he has reached the concept of the multiverse. So, when we bring together both the physical and astrophysical foundations, the temporal and spatial dimensions of the universe's creation, and the philosophical inquiries regarding God and Satan, we realize that this is not an ordinary question. When we examine this question with a knowledge-based and structured approach, we understand how difficult it is to answer. Then Satan continues, "You know that my whispers will affect them, while their power, might, and abilities will not affect me. If they had been created with an unchanging nature, they would have lived a pure and obedient life. That would have been the most appropriate and the most wise system. What is the wisdom behind establishing it differently? Look carefully. He builds his entire argument on the methodology that the infinite creator, God, and Lord are the same entity. Do you see this? He knows this very well, but because he also knows that people will fail to grasp it, he constructs his entire system of whispers upon these questions. And now, the final question. Look, this is very important. All of us have thought about this at some point. If he had destroyed me, the created beings would have been free from my influence, and there would be no more evil in the universe. Why did he not do so? Do you see now? The last two questions attempt to establish an entirely new methodology of universe creation, questioning the potential for a different reality. Thus, Satan made his objection at that very moment. That is, in the gathering of the angels, he essentially said, "Look, if you expel me from your presence, these and these problems will arise. I am asking you to grant me time until the day of judgment." Then God responds, "I will grant you time until the day of judgment." Yet, even the fact that God grants him time until the day of judgment does not answer these 7 questions. Why are these events unfolding in this manner? Why are such occurrences happening? We also see that within the divine system, these questions were not explicitly addressed in that gathering. Of course, the Quran contains other verses and different narratives, but that particular gathering was not a simple meeting. Satan, from his own perspective, attempted to demonstrate how great an injustice he believed had been done to him by God. And then he went to Adam and whispered his first deception. Look at what the verse says. "And O Adam, dwell, you and your wife, in paradise." Then the Lord says, after expelling Satan, "Eat and drink freely from wherever you wish, but do not approach this tree, lest you become among the wrongdoers." Now discussions with Satan took place. Satan tried to prove his own righteousness. He knows what will happen if he is expelled from the divine presence. Despite knowing what is to come, a debate unfolds regarding these events. And especially after deceiving Adam in paradise, he adds new questions to these inquiries. Thus, these 7 questions developed gradually over time. And what happens at the end of the day? Satan whispers to them and says, Do you know why your Lord forbids you from eating from this tree? Because he does not want you to become two angels, or rather, this word can also be translated as Malik, meaning king. He does not want you to attain kingship. He does not want you to create a new lineage from this tree. This is how Satan deceives Adam. And at the end of the day, Adam succumbs to this deception, this misleading, or rather, let's not call it deception or misleading. There was an offer made. In economic terms, this is called an opportunity cost. Imagine you are making a decision. Should I spend my time sitting with my friends, recording a video, or reading a book? Opportunity cost is choosing the option that will bring you the most valuable outcome. Satan presents Adam with an opportunity cost, an offer that could be realized. This offer is a promise of kingship, a promise of rulership. Thus, the purpose of today's discussion was to examine Satan's inquiries, Satan's arguments in his own defense, the philosophical implications of the questions he raised, how these questions and inquiries have been embedded in the minds of all humanity. Moreover, we also explored how the counter-arguments, those of theology, of believers in God, of those who adhere to a monotheistic system, of all the divine beings mentioned in the scriptures, and of the claim that this God possesses infinite power, wisdom, and might, how they struggle to provide a sufficient response to Satan's arguments. Satan has built his reasoning upon this very foundation. However, there remains only one counter-argument that can be presented against Satan's claims, evaluating Satan's system in contrast to the concept of cosmic hierarchy. Without this perspective, we cannot arrive at the correct conclusions. My request to you is this: how justified is Satan in the questions he has raised? How can you personally answer these questions through your own research? Look carefully. There are 7 extraordinary questions before us. As I have stated before, when categorized, 3 of them are built upon why inquiries. The 4th and 5th questions are metaphysical in nature. The 6th and 7th questions explore the possibilities of new realities, parallel universes, and entirely new realms of existence. And in fact, these questions contain the essence of the 3 fundamental arguments currently debated within the scientific world. Let us continue questioning. Let us continue asking. If you have answers to these questions, write them down. If you have encountered responses through Scripture, make sure to share them. We will continue with new inquiries and new discussions in future sessions.